Hey, we're live. Good evening and welcome to Inspire Talk this evening. My name is Stuart Harris and we've got an exciting show for you tonight. We're talking all about communications and tonight's episode especially is the secret to customer acquisition, how to get more customers through simple adjustments to your communications. We're coming to you live from Australia. We have a number of us here in terms of where we are. We've got somebody from Melbourne, somebody from the Gold Coast, and I'm not quite sure where our guest is from, but I'm pretty sure he's going to tell us. Before we talk to him, I'd like to introduce you to our co-host, Ranil Rajapaksha. Welcome along, Ranil. Good to see you tonight.
Hi, Stuart. How you going? Hope you're well. And hi, everybody. Really exciting about tonight's show.
Yeah, me too. And look, what just like to touch on too, Ranil, before we start is InspireTalk. If you could give us a little bit about that and the phase of where we're at with the show presently.
Absolutely. Look, so InspireTalk is basically comprised of 4 people. Federico Ray, Laura Huxley, Stuart Harris, yourself, and also myself. We're all entrepreneurs from different backgrounds. We're coming together basically to create something where we can build a community of like-minded people, where we can invite game changers like Abramo Ierardo onto our program to have an informal chat and also invite you to ask questions to hopefully make you a better business person, to make you make better decisions. The whole point of InspireTalk is also leverage. We're here to basically help you. There's lots of resources out there. We'll hope to be one of them as well, but with a little bit of a different touch by basically really identifying your everyday heroes out there and giving you an opportunity to also be included in the discussion. So it's going to be a really good session today.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ranil. And yes, we should have some really good content for you, so we're looking forward to that. Without spending any more time on that, I'd like to introduce you to a very learned colleague and informed guest. He's the Managing Director of Action Mail Lists. And look, there's a whole heap of things that I could rattle through here, but I'm not going to. What I'll do now is introduce you to Abramo Ierardo. Welcome along this evening, Abramo.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Ranil. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here too. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
I was just going to say, just to introduce who I am and what I do. Action Mailing Lists is a list brokerage company in the old-fashioned language. These days we talk about acquiring data for customer acquisition work, and we boil it down to a couple of words that talk about the fact that if you want more customers, I've got lists of consumers and other businesses where you can actually target them to change them from prospects into customers.
Awesome. And tell us a bit about Abramo. Well, I guess I'll tell the audience. Abramo and I do know each other. We go quite way back, and we have amazing conversations about communication, strategies, marketing, advertising. But tell us a little bit about your credibility, your credentials, and where you've come from and what you actually kind of do right now in terms of ADMA.
Yeah, sure. 15 years ago, I walked into a company called Action Mailing Lists that was owned by one of the icons of the direct marketing industry, and he employed me to do one thing and one thing only, was to take AML from being very much a sleeping little trading entity that he owned into a business that would actually generate significant income for him, and I would start to share in that income. Action Mailing Lists is, as I said, a list brokerage company. One of the problems with working in list space is, and I soon discovered this, it kind of had this dark side of, and if you can imagine a little guy going to a rubbish bin, grabbing out all of the names and addresses that have been thrown out of someone's office and started typing them into a database, that was the list world. It was nothing like that. And what I needed to do very quickly was actually build my credibility within an industry that actually had no credibility. So I insisted that I joined the Australian Direct Marketing Association, as it was called then. It's now called the Association for Data-Driven Marketing and Advertising, and that starts to reflect the sort of growing dependence on data not just to make marketing decisions, but all business decisions now are based around the data that a business generates, even almost despite itself. So I joined that association with the sole intention of building credibility for AML. What I then discovered afterwards, then, by being heavily involved in it, is that I was invited to sit on the national board. I did that twice. I now sit on the Victorian branch committee, and that enables me to not only build my own credibility within the industry, but it also enables me to leverage knowledge of people that I probably wouldn't normally interact with. The national board's chairman is the marketing director of eBay. The board is made up of people like Google, like Salesforce, and a number of major agencies, advertising agencies. So you're starting to interact with people that give you a more strategic view of the marketing communications industry. I then did like what most people do, is I just became a bit of a leech and just sucked as much knowledge as I could out of these people, shared my insights, and now I'm at the point now where I'm kind of pushing back a little bit into the industry association, because what often happens in a lot of those environments is they start to focus on the big companies and forget about us little guys. And that's why I actually got a little bit excited when Renil asked me to be part of this program, because to me, this is where I get excited, is talking to other small to medium-sized businesses that are looking to be better at what they do. Our country's future is built around being better than everyone else around the world. And if you don't think you're competing globally, you're lying to yourself, because all of us now compete globally with everything we do.
Absolutely, and I was just going to say before I pass on to Stuart, you know, there's a whole bunch of people tuning in from, you know, entrepreneurs, small business, medium business decision makers, and I guess what I'd love them to take away from this session as well is just your learnings as well from your history and your experience. You know, what the big boys are doing, or sorry, what they're not doing, that perhaps everybody else can. It's a big dark world out there, and there's sometimes too much clutter, too much noise, and I know of too many business owners that, you know, get a little bit, let's say, turned off, you know, and don't really understand the true meaning of communication and connection. Exactly what this is all about. Marketing, business, you know, relationships. It's all connection and communication. And yeah, that's what we'll be touching on today. Yeah, so
I agree.
Yeah, and we'll get into the 7 points, the 7 Ps in a moment. But Stuart, I'll probably hand over to you, mate.
Yeah, so look, just extending on from what Renil's talking about there, Abramo, is, you know, we use terms like action mailing lists and association for data-driven marketing. They're quite scary, really, and especially for people that don't know what they really are and what they mean in terms of, you know, exposing your business, your sales process, or whatever it is you're doing today. Can you break that down a little bit for us and just explain it in layman's terms?
Yeah, very good pickup, Stuart. And I think in a lot of our spaces we end up getting hooked into words that really mean a lot to us, but don't really mean a lot to a general audience. Really what it boils down to is this, is that if you are looking for new customers, the best clue to finding a new customer is to find people that look like your current best customers. Now, most businesses have got a customer of some description, or customers of some description. What I generally do is talk to them about their current customers and try to find for them lookalikes. That's what I do for a living. So if you said to me your customer is a 50-year-old woman that lives in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne and has a house to the value of $1 million and has a dog, that's what my customer looks like. Well, then I can find other people that look like that and sell them to you as a method of actually getting new customers. Now, it's not as simple as that, because one of the things you have to do is actually prepare a campaign to go to those people and then make sure that they, when they get to receive your campaign, can interact with it well. So go back to the very definition of direct marketing, which is, it is one-to-one communication which sets up an exchange between you and your potential customer. That's direct marketing, and that's what I do.
And look, I think often marketers refer to just what you've just mentioned there as something called an avatar quite often. So if you're looking for a link to some of these terms, then that term's one of them.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and so look, it's really important that our audience understands what's involved here, because really it's very simplistic in its process, but it can often be way off the mark, especially with even the best of marketers. They can get this wrong. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why over the 15 years I've been doing this, I've been looking for something that I can actually put in front of somebody and they kind of get the stepping of the process, right? So I developed up this 7P process where I'm looking for you to answer specific questions about every part of the marketing communication so that we can actually give the campaign they're about to run the best chance of success. The very first part of that is the P for product. And it's really fascinating when you actually start to talk to marketers, because I'm going to ask you this one question, which says, what does your product do and how do your customers benefit from it? Now, you need to be able to tell me that in 15 to 20 seconds. And if you can't, you keep working at it until you can do it. Because in data-driven marketing, you may get 15 to 20 seconds before someone presses the delete button or someone takes your letter to the recycling bin. So what does your product do and how does your customer benefit? That's step one. We then move quickly to step two, and I call that the promise. And it's very simple, is what are you promising that your product will do, and what are you prepared to guarantee in the context of what your product is going to do? Now, if you are not prepared to make a promise to a potential customer about your product, then already you've got a problem. So what is the promise?
Just with that one, sorry, could you give us an example?
It's really simple. You look at some of the major sort of brand campaigns that are out there right now, and if you look at something like, for instance, the National Australia Bank, more take, less give is their proposition right now. So they're making a promise to you that says is that we're not going to charge you fees that are not appropriate, and we're going to give you everything that you need from a bank. Now that's a promise. Now, understanding that the next P then comes into play, which is proof. Now this is the part that most new businesses and small businesses really struggle with. What proof have you got that your product does what you say it's going to do and that you are prepared to stand behind it? Now, that proof comes in lots of different ways. For instance, if you're a pharmaceutical company, you might have clinical trials. If you are a banker, you might have testimonials from current customers. But you must provide some proof. Some of the other things that are good for proof is member of an association. If you are a personal trainer, where you trained could be really interesting in terms of proof. If you are a doctor, having your certificate up on the wall is proof. So that's proof that you are what you say you are and your product does what you say it's going to do. So you can see already how we're building this. We've got a product, we've got a promise, and now we've got proof. All of those three are the first three building blocks to the 7-step process to actually get success out of your marketing communications. The next one I always struggle with whenever I'm talking to clients, and that is the people part of the marketing campaign. Now that's broken down into 3 parts. Number 1 is, who are you to be making the promise? So you, as the front face of a business, as the front face of a product, or as the front face of an enterprise, do you actually have the credibility to be actually saying the words about the promise? So that's a personal thing. The second part of the people thing is, who are your customers? Now, I'm stunned. Renil, I'm sure if I asked you, who are your customers? The first thing that comes off your head is, oh, I've got lots of different customers, which we do. Who are your best customers? And once you start to identify what that word best means, you actually getting to a point of saying, as Stuart's already mentioned, creating this avatar. Given that my best customer looks like this, then I want more customers that look like this, and that becomes the second part of P. The third part of P is making sure that within your enterprise, the customer-facing people are good at what they do. They're empowered, they're trained, and they're motivated. Now, if you want to use examples of that, call Telstra. Now, if I'd said that to you 5 years ago, we all have a smile on our face about an experience of calling Telstra. So what have they done over the last 5 years? They have worked tirelessly to make that better. And it is a completely different experience now than it was 5 years ago. It is better, but it's taken them 5 years on that journey. Now, if we're talking about small and medium-sized enterprises, you haven't got that time. Make sure that your customer-facing people are really good at what they do. And then we'll start to get into the next part of the piece. Now, Stuart, I didn't use any language there that was a bit confusing.
Not at all. I think everyone can definitely relate to Telstra, but I have to admit to having an experience with Qantas this week, and I phoned them 3 times, and each of those calls I was left on their voice service system, call it what you may, for over 45 minutes. Yep. And here's a company that struggled recently. They reckon they've turned it around, and I'm certainly not experiencing it. So you're right on the money with that one. And how many of these big companies leave us like that? Many of them do. Absolutely.
Which is interesting. If you actually wanted to get their attention, get onto their Twitter feed.
Yes.
You would get an answer instantaneously, which is fascinating, isn't it? It's the same with the recent outages that Telstra's had, right? If you want to find out what's going on, get onto their Facebook feed. And you'll see all these people venting and saying what they want, and every one of them is responded to. But if you tried to call them, 45 minutes on hold. That's not the customer experience that builds on the promise that you've given, is it?
No, not at all.
No, and I had a recent example of a bank over the Christmas New Year period. What they decided to do was cut costs. So the branch I normally go to was closed for 2 weeks, and they referred you to a branch that was 4 kilometres away. Is $6 billion in profit not enough?
Yeah.
But you see my point.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can see how they clearly lost the plot in terms of where that $6 million is coming from.
Yeah, and I think that that's right. But as a small and medium-sized enterprise, that's where your competitive advantage can actually sit. Okay, and looking at your own marketplace, you can say to yourself, no one else in my industry is open on a Sunday. Why don't I experiment with Sunday opening and see if that drives more business? In fact, probably what I could do is close on a Monday, but open on a Sunday, and I'll actually replace the revenue. It's that sort of thinking about the customer experience that actually starts to... I use this example a lot when I lecture at Monash University and at RMIT, and I say to a lot of the people in the room is, are you a customer of your employer? And in so many cases, the answer to that question is no. So here you are as a marketing professional, and you don't even go through your own customer experience. How could you possibly be a marketing professional in that environment? Now, I understand there's exceptions to that, but the reality is that you've got to do whatever you can to take the customer journey, because you'll find lots of ways of actually improving that experience. Which actually leads me to the next P, and it's called process. More often than not, I come across clients that actually do not have a clearly defined process of dealing with customers. The phone rings, I pick it up, I see what the customer wants, I fix it, I do this, I do that, I sell them a product, push it out, and I move on to the next guy. When you're actually trying to acquire new customers, you do need some sort of process to handle that inquiry. I'm sure we've all got experiences, and quite frankly, I'll stick my hand in the air and say, I do not go back to my inquiries as quick as I would like to. My website does generate probably somewhere between 20 and 25 new business inquiries a week, and the reality is I don't get back to them as quick as I should. Because in my world, I try to deal with every one of them as an individual, which means that I don't have an automated process of dealing with that. So I talk to my clients about what is the process of handling a new customer inquiry. What do you do to them? How is it processed? How do you allocate it to a salesperson if that's the way you work? How do you respond to them? What time frames have you set? All of these are very important aspects of a new business inquiry. And if you're about to start a campaign to try to generate new business, let's talk about how they're going to be handled. So if we suddenly do a campaign to 10,000 people and you got 100 phone calls, could you handle it? Now, in a lot of cases, they don't have the phone lines to handle with that, so we may need to pulse a campaign. So that's where the process kicks in. Now, I think you will have noticed that we've gotten to 5 Ps out of my 7 Ps, and I'm now going to start talking about promotion. Because everything we've talked about is setting it up so that promotion can be done better. And that promotional campaign can't start until you've got all the rest of it right. Because I'll talk about now about the 4 elements of actually a good promotional campaign. The number one thing is an offer. Now, I can't tell you how many campaigns have come to me with an offer that simply isn't good enough. What you find is that they haven't done the research. They haven't looked around. And you know what, these days, guys, there's no excuse for not looking around to see what your competitors are doing. How easy is it to find? I mean, one Google search in your category, and you'll find every competitor you ever want to look at. And in fact, in a lot of cases, there's comparison sites that have been set up. So if you're going to come to me as a small building society or credit union looking to promote a home loan, and it's 10 basis points above everyone else's rate, what do you think the campaign's going to do? It's just going to bomb. So that's the sort of stuff that you've got to do the bit of research up front. So the offer is one part. The next part is you cannot be glib about creative. Ultimately, if your message doesn't get attention, doesn't break through, doesn't crack open a little crack for you to crawl through, So don't dismiss the value of a great idea. And I've got to tell you, I learned that because I sat on the Vic branch of the Association of Data-Driven Marketing and Advertising, and in there, the current chair is a senior person at one of the major advertising agencies in this country. And when we talk about creative, I get excited because they come up with fabulous ideas. And it's that idea that suddenly generates the cut-through that you need to get someone's attention. Because quite frankly, no matter how good your campaign is, if you can't get their attention, The third element of there is picking the right channel to go to market with. Now, in this world of digital communications, please don't just choose email. Choose it because it's the right way. Don't choose it because it's cheap. I can't emphasize that enough. Every campaign I've run for the last 12 months, mail has outperformed email by 5 to 1. Now think about it. How many personalised letters are you guys getting? Next to none.
Not that many.
So where's the place that there's no clutter? Your letterbox.
Well, we kind of spoke about this too, didn't we, Abramo? I mean, what's the best way to cut through to a young individual today? And it's probably direct mail because they don't receive any.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you've got to do what everyone else is not doing because on a smaller budget, you can actually get better cut through. And the fact is, yes, I've got email lists available. Renil's got lists available. We can run performance-based digital inventory and digital media. But in the end, when I need to push out a campaign, don't dismiss a channel just because you think it's expensive. It's only expensive if it falls flat on its backside. That's the only time it's expensive. The last element of that, which is I've already touched on, is data. In a world when we've got so much information, deriving an insight is your next challenge. So yes, we know that our website receives 5,000 visits a month. Where do those visits come from? How long do they stay? What pages are they interested in? All of that is information, but what we now need is to develop an insight out of that that pushes a campaign out there that heightens the potential for response. We talked about finding avatars. We talked about finding lookalikes. That's the data problem. And if we can't do that part of it, your campaign will never succeed. No matter how good your offer is, how good your creative is, or how good your channel selection is, if you do not have the data right, your campaign's a failure. And in the good old days when some of the legends of our industry spoke about this, they talked about 60% of the success of any campaign was built around the data. A good list will generate good response. But yes, you also need the other three elements as well. The last part of my P's is pretty simple. And it's all about perseverance. Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's, went bankrupt 4 times before he started McDonald's. And he used to have a sign on his desk that said, perseverance is everything, because it will push you through the troughs and the peaks that happen in any form of business. Let's face it, we're all entrepreneurs. Some of us would call us mad because we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a better result. Why? Because we're prepared to persevere to fulfill our dreams with our businesses. You've got to translate that into marketing terms as well. So if the first campaign doesn't go as well as you want, go again. Go again and get better and better and better and better. If you look at someone like Reader's Digest, they have been mailing people since the 50s, and they still run a test every single campaign. You would have thought they got it right? No, they're not convinced. They'll change something, run a test, and see what happens. Now, the best place to test stuff these days is in email, because you can usually go to market quickly. It's a lot cheaper to get to market. Test something there, and then before you roll out to, say, some of the more expensive channels. It's a great place to test an idea, great place to test creative, great place to test an offer. And I think that that's a sort of little tip I'm happy to share.
Excellent. Thanks, Abramo. We're talking here on InspireTalk. We have an extremely special guest, which we're getting some extremely special information from. His name is Abramo Ierardo, and he's here with us at the moment. Ranil, can I pass back to you to just follow up on some of what Abramo's been talking about here?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think it's poignant that we speak about this now, because the American campaign pretty much, I guess, follows all of these P's as well to some degree. But what I actually want to stress to everyone as well is that this isn't just something that's followed by the big multinationals. And as Abramo kind of mentioned a couple of times, there's a lot of holes there out in market, with your competitors and with these 7 Ps basically. And the other thing to think about is we don't probably necessarily need to research too much, do we, Abramo, into finding out the 7 Ps in our own business. So for example, someone who's starting up or someone who's been in business for a while, they probably know the 7 Ps in the back of their mind already.
Yep. And that's probably very true. I think the one thing about it, though, is that be conscious of what your competitors are doing within your own marketplace, right? I think specifically that applies to any business that markets to consumers. And I think it's important that they develop a uniqueness about who they are, but also develop up an understanding of the marketplace they work in. I mean, one of the things I do is I sign up to all my competitors' newsletters and find out what they're doing. Set up a Gmail account, just get all their newsletters in there and find out what others are doing. What it does do is say to you, it does 2 things to me. One is it makes sure that your product offering is at least competitive. But number 2 is it usually identifies to you that, and it gives you confidence that what you're doing has a marketplace. I think in particular with startup businesses, it's very important that, and I get a little bit sort of pushy with some of my startup clients when they say, oh no one else is doing this. Well, they probably are, and even if they're not really waiting for your product to arrive so that they can just whip out their credit card and buy it. We still have to do that whole understanding of the benefits, presenting of the benefits, and then making sure that we price this accordingly. So that's all part of the marketing mix. The very experienced business owners sometimes get locked into their own world and feel like they don't need to. And my challenge to them is to say, be comfortable and confident about that position. If you are, beautiful. But if you've got a little bit of doubt, spend some time doing a little bit of research to work out that you can be comfortable in that position. And that's, as you say, Ranil, that's not hours and days of research. That could be 15 to 20 minutes of just a bit of a Google search in your category.
Yeah, correct. And what I'll probably add to that as well is I think at the end of the day, the whole objective of this is really to gain more clients and not customers. Where the difference basically is the customer is probably just a 1 or 2, relationship transaction with your business, whereas a client is someone who will basically be a loyal person and will come back and back again. And this is really, really good insights. Stuart, did you want to add anything else, or shall we quickly get Abramo to go through those 7 again?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to check in with Abramo in terms of what you could perhaps offer our audience right now in terms of simplifying their message in their marketing program. I know we've been through the P's and we'll go through those again, but in terms of just getting a message through that's going to have the greatest possible success, what could you advise on that one?
I don't want to be too glib with this, Stuart, because I think sometimes some of our audience may in fact have quite complicated products that they actually need to position properly. But the challenge I'll say to you is this: is somewhere between 3 and 5 words, describe your product, and try to include in that the benefit to the customer. Now, in my own website, you'll see that I've broken it down into 3 words. We sell lists. Now what that does is that at least anyone that comes to the site understands what we do. The number of websites I go to where I read this gorgeously crafted paragraph and I walk away thinking, I'm not sure what this business does. Now, if anyone comes to you and walks away more confused than when they started, try to distill it down into 3 to 5 words that describes what you do. That'd be number 1. Number 2 is draw an avatar of your best customer. Now, the word best will mean something different for every business. It might be the highest margin, it might be the most frequent customer, it could be the biggest spend. Whatever it is that determines best for you, draw the avatar and make that as detailed and as specific as possible. Those 2 things alone will drive customer acquisition, because you can launch pad off that into everything I've said in the 7 P's.
Yeah, look, I can't endorse that enough. And yeah, like yourself, I've seen so many websites that just don't have a clue about who they think their customer is, and the words say all sorts of different peoples in a very short space of time. Remembering, of course, too, that when people go to your website, they're usually there for about 3 to 5 seconds before they find what they want, or they don't find what they want. So if they can't see it, they're out of there. Yep. I don't know if you have that experience too, Abramo, do you?
I did. And I've got to say, the previous version of my website talked about integrated customer acquisition strategies and tactical implementation. What the hell does that mean? So I translated that into we sell lists, and guess which one ranks better in Google, and we're going to guess which one generates more inquiries. That's the point, isn't it? And I've got to tell you, it took me a long time to even get my own head around that that's what I do. So it's the point, isn't it? It's just distilling it down into just a few words that tell people exactly what you do. And it is a challenge. And I'm saying to you that if I throw that gauntlet out to you and say 3 to 5 words to find what you do, most people will get there.
Yeah, that's very true. Did you want to go through the 7 Ps very quickly again, so our viewers can jot it down if they've missed any? Okay. And then probably also go through an exciting deal that you have for our viewers as well.
Okay, happy to. Okay, so your 7 Ps are product, promise, proof, people, process, promotion, and perseverance. Now, some detail about that we've spoken about already, but there's your 7 Ps.
Yep, brilliant.
But also,
sorry,
the audience.
Sorry, Bram. I was just going to say, just with that, we're going to get a fact sheet as well available for anybody who reaches out to us, and we'll get those 7 Ps over, and that will be from Abramo as well. So yeah, get in touch with in touch with us and we'll send it over. Sorry, Abramo, over to you, mate.
Yeah, and that's fine. Thanks, Renil. And look, and I'll just make this a very simple offer. I'm happy to offer a 1-hour consultation to anybody that wants to do some customer acquisition work, where we will sit down either face-to-face or over the phone or a Skype call, whatever you're most comfortable with, and I'm happy to dedicate an hour to any of our listeners that wants to go through the process of actually acquiring new customers. Now, one of the things that you will find from me is this, is if I can't help you, you'll be told that. And it usually does happen from time to time. That, I mean, like, I don't have enough experience in that industry or whatever it is, but hopefully part of my network can, in which case that will be a referral on to someone else who can help you. But I would love to just make that offer, 1 hour, free consultation, and on the fact sheet will be my contact details, etc.
Right. And where will they go to get this, Abramo? How do they make contact?
Really simply, either go to my website, aml.com.au, or on the fact sheet I'll give you the email address and contact details on there.
Okay. All right. So aml.com.au is the place to go to, or it'll be on the fact sheet that we'll have published as well following this event. And with that, what we're probably going to wind up in a few minutes. I'll give both Renil and Abramo a chance to think about maybe a final parting comment. I want to just point out some of the really golden nuggets that Abramo has given us tonight. The first one is 60% of your success is generated from your data. And what do we mean by your data? The information from your customer. The second one is spend the time seeking the insights from the response information. So this is information coming back from your promotion or from your website or wherever you get response feedback from your marketing or sales activities. The third one is understand your customer spend. Understand your customer spend time on knowing your customer. Sorry, I got that wrong. Spend time on knowing your customer is essentially what I'm saying there. So get to know who they are, spend time on that, get the data and bring that in and formulate the avatar as Abramo has said. And finally, be clear about what you do. Abramo's website says we sell lists. You couldn't be any clearer than that, but there's a prime example about what sort of language you've got to break it down to so that you get the sort of customer that you want to get. And with that, I'm going to go to Renil. Renil, would you have your final word for us tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's been a great session, Abramo. Thank you very much. A lot of content, a lot of good content as well. My takeaway, my golden nugget is actually to draw up your perfect avatar or the avatar of your best customer. I think that speaks volumes, really. And then what you said in terms of just find more of them, you know, get lookalikes of your best avatar, your perfect customer. So many times I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, business owners, we get diluted in terms of, you know, the pressures of growth and probably looking at different ways to grow other than what's probably right in front of us. And sometimes we do get distracted. So that was actually my golden nugget that I'll take away. I think that was really, really valuable. Thanks so much, Abramo. This was a really good session. I do want to stress to everybody listening that this is fundamental. It might sound commonsensical, but this is real fundamental, you know, aspects in terms of business that we can't rest on our laurels either. So it's something where you might not necessarily just find the answer and sit on it. You might have to be flexible with it. But as long as the framework is there with the 7 Ps, I think it's a very, very good start in terms of getting to what you want to achieve with your business. With that, Abramo, I'll probably leave it with you to probably give us again your offer very quickly, and also with all the viewers listening in, this is a very, very good offer. If you are stuck, if you do need any help, if you need clarity in terms of how to market, what to do, where to go, you know, where do I start, all these questions, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. So, Abramo, would you mind just quickly going through the offer again?
Yeah, happy to. To any of your audience, if they need some help in acquiring new customers, I'm happy to give them a 1-hour consultation where we'll go through the 7 Ps together and work out what we can do together to gain them new customers. And I'm happy to dedicate that time where we'll actually go into some detail about who their current customers are and try to find some lookalikes for them.
Can we ask you for one parting comment, please, Abramo?
The one thing, if you take away nothing else from this session, is understand who your best customers are, because from there we can launch pad into finding new customers.
Brilliant. Awesome. And we've been extremely fortunate tonight to have Abramo Ierardo from Action Mail Lists, aml.com.au. And with that, we're going to sign out. Thank you very much, Abramo, and thank you very much, Renil.
Okay, thanks, guys. Been a pleasure. See ya.
See ya.